Hey guys, welcome back to the Jersey Comic Crew. In today's episode, we are talking the end credit scenes of WandaVision Episode 9's finale. Come on inside.
Hey guys, we're the Jersey Comic Crew. We're talking the end credit scenes of WandaVision. I'm Rob Moran. Over there's Chris Heller. We got a lot of information we want to talk about. Spoiler warning right here if you haven't watched WandaVision, obviously, because we're talking about the end credit scene. The first end credit scene we're going to talk about is the Monica end credit scene, where a scroll came in, said, he wants to meet you, old friend of your mother, in space. We touched upon this a little bit in the last video if you haven't watched it. I was racking my brain on who it was. I was like, maybe it's the Super Scroll, right? Maybe it's the Scroll, like, head of the Scrolls, right? The new Scroll King, old friend of your mother's, right?
Hulkling?
Then I was separately, and then I thought Hulkling individually, right? So I'm like, all right, who is this Scroll hierarchy that it could be? I was leaning more towards like the new Scroll King, right? Like, and then we get reintroduced into the whole world of the Scrolls. We can see what's going on with the Kree Skrull War, kind of get reintroduced to everything. And that's obviously Captain Marvel 2 territory. Maybe they're going to have to team up. He's like, hey, listen, I need your help. Carol Danvers is in trouble. Like, we don't know where she is. And then Monica Rambeau and Captain Marvel 2 has to meet up with Carol Danvers, get her out of trouble. The two of them work together to get out. But you made a very logical thinking of who it was in the last episode. I want you to readdress it for this episode. I want to explore that a little bit more, because I think my theories are nonsense, especially Hulkling. Since if the kids aren't real, we're not going to see Hulkling now. And
he marries Wiccan, who's a child. Yeah.
And Super Skrull is a big villain of the Fantastic Four, and I don't think we're going to see that right now.
That'd be awesome. No,
but I think your person's right.
Yeah, I think the logical explanation would be Nick Fury, right?
Right.
We last saw him in the very end of Captain Marvel, which was back in the 90s. Technically, he is present day up in space. There's this Skrull on Earth pretending to be Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. We also know that he was with the Skrulls in some type of spaceship. We originally thought that was going to be the start of Sword or some type of Skrull Kree war. Here's the other thing. We know Nick Fury's getting his own Disney Plus show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was announced a couple months ago. We know Nick Fury's getting a Disney Plus show, and we know there's going to be a Secret Invasion Disney Plus show, and obviously we know there's going to be a Captain Marvel 2 movie. So the aspect is this: Monica's kind of trajectory into the rest of the Marvel universe, right? She has her powers. We're seeing them manifest. I'm actually really glad they didn't manifest fully yet in this, because I feel like that would have taken a lot out of the Wanda story, which is the heart of the story. But I think as her powers grow, she's going to be more involved with Sword now that Hayward's gone. It's going to make sense that Monica kind of takes up the mantle of her mother, maybe as the head of Sword, is the next Captain Marvel or Photon, to not confuse names. And then she's going to work with Nick Fury, possibly the Skrulls, because she knows the Skrulls, right? Who knows? Is the Super Skrull up there working with the Skrulls and Nick Fury right now? And he's kind of like an okay guy. He's like the muscle. Or, we don't know. We could see him, but I think the next time we see Monica will either be in, whatever's first, right? Nick Fury, Captain Marvel 2, or Secret Invasion.
With Nick Fury up in space, creating whatever he's creating up there, it's not
Space
Sword.
Shield?
Yeah, like, it's not Sword, right? Because Sword is already created by Monica Rambeau.
Maria
Rambeau, thank you, sorry. What if this is like, I'm thinking of like teams that Carol Danvers was on, right? I was thinking maybe Alpha Flight, which I know is more Canadian, but that could be what's going on up there. It feels like to me that Fury is creating the Avengers of space up there, right? He has his own little team, whether it's Shield or Sword. Maybe it's Sword, offshoot of Sword, right? But it does seem like he's going to be starting to create his superhero team in space. We've seen that kind of before.
Yeah, let me add on to that, because I think you're on to something where the kind of theme of the Avengers in the MCU and protection was Tony's original vision of, not Vision, the android Vision, but his original vision for the Avengers, which was a shield around the Earth, right? Avengers 1 showed us that there are threats that are way more advanced than us outside of Earth. How the hell do we deal with this when, we are only as Howard Stark said, right? We are subjugated to the technology of our time, right? We're maybe in your time, Tony, you can figure this out. I think Nick Fury is taking Tony Stark's original vision of a shield around the planet in his new kind of, hey, I'm going to team up with friendly alien species that I know we can create this kind of business working realm with. And this is going to be kind of Tony Stark's vision of the shield around the planet, not just with technology and an actual shield, but with people, with the right cosmic level personnel, the Captain Marvels, the Monica Rambeaus. Hopefully, I would love to see Nova with some Richard Rider. Maybe if you need Thor or the Guardians in there.
And we already have the Nova Corps, right? They already
Nova
teased
Corps
that, right? We don't have Nova himself.
I think he'll show up eventually in phase 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think he'll show up, right? But like I can see this becoming like the beginning of that scene. But we're gonna find out more of that in Captain Marvel 2, guys. So stay tuned for when we get that. We want to talk about the big, heavy, meaty after credit scene. And by big, heavy, meaty, I don't mean like we got a lot of information. It's just that the information we do got and the ramifications could be huge, right? So we got to talk about like what's next for Wanda, right? So we saw Wanda in this cabin reading the Darkhold, and we saw her hearing the kids, right? So obviously she's getting more power. We don't know what it has to do with the multiverse of madness, right? Maybe Doctor Strange just needs that. Maybe she reaches out to Doctor Strange for guidance, right? That could be just simple like that. I don't think she's going to go wild and crazy with her powers like we thought, right? I think it's going to be more tamed, more pulled in from Marvel, and I think that works, right? My thing is the fact that she's reading the Darkhold and we hear her kids going out. I'm thinking this is how the kids are going to get reintroduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? I think she's going to create these souls and allow them to be reintroduced into the world so that way they could be reborn somewhere. My question is, like, what ramifications is that going to have? Like, You can't just do this and just do it out of thin air. I mean, although she can because she has chaos magic, but I think it's going to alert a certain someone, to the balance is off, which is Doctor Strange. He's like, hey, you can't be doing this. The balance is off. Maybe that's going to create a little rift. Marvel just like with this show just gave me a giant middle finger thinking like anything that you think it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. So it's just hurtful. I just don't know where to begin with this. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's two ways to begin. And yes, I agree, Marvel, the middle finger, as well as Paul Bettany saying like, hey, there's an actor, which my buddy called immediately. And I was like really hoping he wasn't right.
I loved it.
It was such a troll job by Paul Bettany talking about working with himself, which was also
was good.
Brilliant. But yeah, I think there's two major questions that we go down this road, which may add to what you're trying to like work through. And number one is, what is Wanda now? Just basically, is she good? Is she bad? Right? We see her reading the Darkhold. The Darkhold is literally the Book of the Damned. It's called that by Agatha Harkness. It's clearly dark magic, and that's how Agatha got her power so high at that level, right? Look what Agatha did to get that power. She killed her own mother and all of her friends, and she's been around for over 300 years. I think this is the very tip of the iceberg of what we're going to see as far as Wanda's entire story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think she's going to be a heavy hitter in Phase 4 and Phase 5, whether it's using the Darkhold to try and get her kids back, and that opens up the multiverse of madness. Because to me, the question isn't necessarily how she works into the multiverse of madness with Doctor Strange. It's more so how she works in with Spider-Man, which is coming out at the end of this year, right? Because we know that's kind of the next chapter in her story. And if she's a bad guy or girl, if she's a bad, terrible villain now, I don't think that's the case. I think it's more for the sake of knowledge and controlling her power. But that ultimate power is what? It's always ultimately corrupting. I think she's going to be corrupted by the power until she gets a full hold of it. I don't think it's going to be the next time we see her, she has full control of everything.
When you bring up Wanda with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and like these strong connections, I'm viewing this as more the Avengers are taking a turn a little bit. Like the Avengers in power are like, maybe the better term is the authoritative figures in the Avengers are turning more to the mystical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe Wanda doesn't go batshit crazy like we're all thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Wanda becomes more of herself and hones it like, hey, I need to be a pillar here for the Avengers with Doctor Strange, right?
Or an anti-hero.
I don't think anti-hero. I think she is an anti-hero. I don't think the label of anti-hero is as important as it once was in the 90s, right? To show edge to a character. I think the term anti-hero, and we could talk about this a whole deep dove, was a way to show, hey, this character has more depth, right? And that's when writing was evolving for these characters.
It's not black and white anymore. There's gray.
Exactly. Characters weren't as one-dimensional as they once was with the creation of the anti-hero.
And a lot of pouches.
I think with Spider-Man, with Wanda, and I know we're getting on a huge tangent, like, he's in trouble and he needs to rely on somebody, right? Like, Tony's not there. Cap's not there, right? Black Panther,
I feel like that's Strange, though. Because we know Strange is in that movie.
No, it's Strange, right? Let me get to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, Cap's not there. Iron Man's not there, right? Black Panther may or may not be there, right? Or
he's not going to be there.
Right? Like, I don't think he's good. Like, I think he's not, right? So, like, these three figures that were, like, the traditional heads, or theoretically the traditional heads of the Avengers, who are more in the grounded side, are gone, right? And he's too young to take on that mantle. Even when he did in the comics, people were like, we don't like you being a leader. You're more like that jokey kid who gets serious when he needs to, right?
And we don't know who you are.
Yeah, like, when shit hits the fan, like, who's he going to turn to? That's going to be Doctor Strange. And I think now Wanda is going to take that other foil, like, that was Captain America. Like, Captain America and Iron Man, they foiled each other. I think we're making Wanda more the foil to Doctor Strange. I don't know. I think I'm just really excited for all this, but I
think it's going to be, well, the other thing is, one of the biggest theories of this was, where is Baron Mordo in all this? Because his final line in Doctor Strange is, too many sorcerers. I can't do Chiwetel's voice like he does, but, like, too many sorcerers is him basically going on, like, almost like a Kraven the Hunter style hunt for sorcerers and witches and wizards, right? That's Strange, Wong, Scarlet Witch, and whoever the hell else pops up. Could he be part of the reason Mephisto gets into this? We've seen Doctor Strange already in the multiverse when we saw Dormammu. I mean, I don't think Baron Mordo is going anywhere. I think he's going to be a big piece of this puzzle as well. He's the one who's like, no, too many powerful people. I want to be the powerful one. I'm going to start killing people off. I think Wanda's going to, in her studies, has to mess up something. Is going to break something. Is going to open a doorway.
We'll see. We'll see. One thing I want to touch real quick.
Yeah.
Before we hit our final point for the episode, Vision, right?
Yes.
We know White Vision flowing into space, like he flew away. He's on this essentially period of self-discovery.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Right? Like,
he's on sabbatical.
I don't think we're gonna touch base on Vision later down the MCU. I think until maybe an Avengers. Like, what do we think is gonna happen to Vision?
I think there's two things in the MCU that's coming up that we could see White Vision in. Number one could be Secret Invasion.
The show, Secret Invasion.
The Disney Plus show. Yeah, okay. The reason is because he might not be able to be taken over by a Skrull because he's animatronic and can phase.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So he might be kind of a loophole into, like, who's a Skrull and it can't be him. You know what I mean? So he might be an aspect, and I don't know if that's what Marvel's going to do as far as rules with him. The other would be Armor Wars, in my theory.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Without Tony Stark, it's almost like, how do you feel the roster of all the armor people with that? We know we have Rhodey in it. We know Ironheart's going to show up eventually with Riri Williams. To me, Vision is kind of like the son family lineage of Tony Stark that would make sense in that aspect. And maybe between those two shows, right, we get the main storyline.
Realization, like, he gets his emotional, like,
and his storyline is in the background, kind of like filling in pieces, or him getting his memory back and his color coming back, or whatever happens.
And in the comics, White Vision, after he becomes good, right, him and Wanda don't end up together anymore. So maybe, like, during this, he's like, listen, I'm not that Vision. I'm not that Vision, Wanda. Like, we can't be together. Maybe down the road, sure, but, like, I need to just do me. And maybe that opens the door for Wanda and Wonder Man, which we don't even know he's going to be in the MCU. We saw some promotional footage of the W of Wonder Man. Maybe that's the thing. Wonder Man essentially has energy of Vision and Wanda, but he's his own person, falls in love. Don't worry about that right now. If that becomes a thing, we'll let you know. But that's just for the uber nerds out there. Guys, the last thing we want to touch upon is Jimmy Woo's missing person. We never got confirmation who that was. That could just be a throwaway to get Jimmy there, right? But that also could be a fun backdoor into this world, right? I have a theory, and I mentioned it a little bit before. Wonder Man. What if Jimmy Woo's person was Wonder Man, right? Wonder Man has a lot of ties with Wanda and Vision in the comics. He does set up the West Coast Avengers, which could be something that Marvel's setting up towards with Kate Bishop and all these other characters eventually coming into this. Wanda gave powers to Monica Rambeau because it got changed so many times. What if Wonder Man being in that space and getting changed once or twice because it went back and forth had his own innate abilities and it was reawoken here and we could get introduction of that character? I think that'd be pretty cool. Other than that, I'm not sure if I have any theories on who I think Jimmy Woo's Jimmy Woo's missing person would be, Chris.
Yeah, this is a tough one. And the only person that comes to mind for some reason is Ralph.
You think it's just Ralph?
Is this Ralph character? Yeah, because originally we were both kind of on the boat, like Marvel's not going to do this as a throwaway. It's going to show up somehow. And Ralph ended up being kind of like that throwaway, right? Where it was, hey, it's his face, but haha, it's a trick. And I don't know if he's going to come into play. I don't know if they're going to use Evan Peters as something else or someone else.
I don't know.
I have no idea, but no, I could see it being Wonder Man. We saw a lot of hints to Wonder Man. It could also be a villain. There's a villain called Nightmare, which that name has been thrown around with nightmares. And could there, like we talked about in the last episode, where if there's a possibility that we get a shot of Westview later with people dealing with their PTSD, a lot of them were saying, Wanda, we see your nightmares. We're living your nightmares.
So the reason I don't think Nightmare is a villain, just for those of you who don't know, has very strong ties to Thor, right? He's a god. Nightmare's a god, and he essentially puts nightmares in everybody's minds and gets energy off of that. He gets stronger because of that. He can control people in their sleep. The reason I don't think it's Nightmare is because this is somebody that's human, right? And we have Thor has so much to deal with. Gore the God Butcher. Due to the introduction of Nightmare and that whole mythos, I think it's a little too much right now. So that's why the whole theory of Nightmare is going to be in this, I never paid any attention to it. I didn't think it's going to be anything real. That could be a theory. But guys, we want to hear your theory on who Jimmy Woo's person might be and what you think is going to happen in the future of Marvel. Comment down below.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, really helps the channel out a lot. And if you're brand new, subscribe, turn on those notifications, join the crew, because you don't want to miss anything else. Like I said before, we're heading into Snyder Cut in a couple weeks. We're heading into Falcon Winter Soldier and beyond. So you do not want to miss it. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That is Rob Moran, and we will see you next time on the Jersey Comic.